All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Next Man Up podcast. Today it's just me, Adam, and then Rich.
Yes, I am here. It's
And
not just Adam by himself with that weird, awkward long pause.
and we are Austin-less today for some reason. So hopefully
So the
he'll,
city of Austin's just gone.
yeah,
The
Austin,
U.S. is just
Texas, completely,
Austin's completely been
yeah,
wiped out. Okay.
100%. Yeah,
Wow.
never coming back.
Interesting.
Good thing nothing important is there at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, today we're gonna, keep talking about those NBA finals. Rich, do you think it ends tonight?
Um. To be perfectly honest, I think Milwaukee's going to close it out at home. They have played better at home during the entire playoffs than they have on the road to begin with. That is a huge stat that definitely benefits Milwaukee. Giannis during the finals, he has played out of his mind. It's also
Yeah.
nice to finally see the other two idiots finally show up because after those first two games, it looked very bleak and very well, these guys don't step it up. Giannis can't win an entire series. He could win a game, maybe two by himself, but
Yeah.
he's gonna need some type of assistance.
Yeah, I think you talked about Giannis stepping up, and I think it's important to note that he's not just, stepping up on offense. He's playing good defense with some of those crazy blocks and steals late in games. And, even Chris Paul has been making more mistakes in the last couple of games than Giannis, which is, he's not a player that typically makes a lot of mistakes. So he's playing like he's been there before, which is kind of surprising for a player like that. But yeah, the Bucks have been playing great. I don't know. I feel like if the Suns win this one, then they'll win it all. And I think it can go either way. I think it'd be interesting if the Suns won it all because it would be, 2-2-2-2 type of thing where Suns win two, Bucks win two, Suns win two to close it out type of thing. Even though, Bucks won, I guess, three in a row now. But I think it'd be funny to see it just kind of like streak back and forth a little bit. So I don't know. I can't really say because both teams have played a little streaky, but I don't know. Maybe because I've been calling them all along a little bit, but I feel like the Suns win this one. They take it back home and win it in Game 7. That's
Uh,
just my feeling. But
I mean, the
I
NBA would
guess,
love that.
yeah, I guess I'm a little bit more of like a Bucks hater too, as well, because I went to school in Wisconsin and everyone was constantly talking about the Bucks, and this was back when they kind of sucked anyway. And every year people were like, "Oh, the Bucks are going to be good this year," and that was the Joakim Noah and Derrick Rose days, and the Bulls would always just kick the shit out of them. And I went to more games in Milwaukee than in Chicago because
Probably cheaper up there too.
the tickets were so cheap because they were so bad. And every year they're like, oh, but this is the year and this is the year. And obviously, since they've had Giannis on their team, they've gotten closer and closer. But I'm just, all those people that I went to school with are like, I told you it was coming. I'm like, yeah, it's like 10 years later.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't tell me that you predicted this 10 years. So I'm just like hoping, I think for that reason in particular, that they don't find a way to win it. And I'm like, see, it just still didn't happen. Not that I like or dislike the Suns in any way, but I feel like the Suns might actually win it in the end. But I think it can go either way. I'm not going to really say this is what's going to happen for sure, but
Oh,
yeah,
I'm gonna say for sure Milwaukee's winning. Just after when it was game 3 and we were on,
yeah,
I literally was like, well, if Milwaukee wins one or two games, they're right back in this.
yeah,
But again, it is that streakiness that you were talking about before. And it's also disappointing to see Chris Paul finally make it to the finals and
hmm,
then play so well in the first two games and then completely play an average player.
yeah,
They'll pass three games. So that's very that's a little unsettling for me because I am a big Chris Paul fan. I'm still pissed the NBA blocked that trade for him to go to the Lakers with Kobe, but yet LeBron could just bring in whoever the hell he wants when he
yeah,
wants, and the NBA is just like,
yeah.
oh yeah, okay, whatever. Go
Yeah,
for it.
I
Do
just
what you
like how
want.
that standard totally just changed like
Yeah.
right after that happened, pretty much.
Yep.
But yeah, so we'll see, I guess, what happens. Like I said, obviously, if the Bucks win tonight, they take it. But I think if the Suns win it tonight, I think they could win a
Yeah.
Game 7 back home too. So,
Yeah. That home
um,
court is huge. It's
yeah,
so underrated sometimes.
yeah. So, talking about something that's happening near home, this with our neighbors up north, Aaron Rodgers reports came out today that he apparently turned down a contract to become the highest paid player
Player.
in the league. Um, and I guess they made the offer several times this offseason, and he kept turning them down. What do you think that means for his future with the Packers?
I mean, to be honest, I have been the first one to say constantly that Aaron Rodgers is not leaving the Packers this year. But after having that headline come out, he still has 3 years on his current contract. They were only extending him an extra 2 years. So they were trying to keep him there for 5 years.
Hmm.
And again, also up his salary, which is what Aaron Rodgers would want.
Sure.
But with them also trying to like extend him the extra 2 years, that means to me, the Packers are not very comfortable with that Jordan Love pick then.
Yeah. Right.
Because
Yeah.
if they were comfortable with Jordan Love and they've seen what he could do during practice for the past year and a half,
Yeah.
kind of thing, like if they're trying to extend Aaron Rodgers to keep him there for 5 years, they've already kind of admitted that like they kind of botched that like pick right there
Right.
for sure. Because now if you're trying to keep Aaron for 5 years, you're totally negating him attempting to play
Right.
anytime soon.
Right.
So
I mean, 5 years is the length of your rookie contract as a quarterback and stuff too.
yeah,
So if they're trying to keep Aaron Rodgers for 5 years, they're pretty much saying that Jordan Love will never be the starter on his rookie deal.
yeah,
Which means if you've never started a game for a team, you're likely not you're usually unlikely to re-sign there, especially as a quarterback.
yeah,
You usually move on after that point. So yeah, I think that is pretty much if they were trying to keep him for 5 years, that is pretty much them admitting that the Jordan Love pick is not working out and he is not ready to take over for Aaron Rodgers, not now and maybe not ever, uh, to be a starting caliber quarterback. I don't know if that really speaks to what's going on with Aaron Rodgers for this year at all. People are like, oh, if he didn't sign there long term, then there's like he clearly doesn't want to play there. But it's like that's not necessarily true. And I'm hearing a lot of people saying, well, he'll probably play one more year there this year, and then they'll trade him like next offseason type of thing,
yeah.
which I think is probably
More
likely.
realistic.
Yeah, more likely at this point. Obviously, as a Bears fan, I'm hoping he doesn't
Leaves
play
right
at all.
now.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
hoping he either just retires,
Bye.
gets traded, or just sits out, keeps sitting out, or whatever. But obviously, Aaron Rodgers has done kind of stuff like this before. Where the one year he missed OTAs, everyone made like a huge deal about it. When it's like, okay, he's a veteran quarterback, knows the system or whatever. I believe that was the year though that they brought in Matt LaFleur, and people were like, "Oh, why would he miss this year when they brought in a new quarterback and have a new system or a new coach and have a new system and stuff?" And
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, he must not be happy with the new coach and whatever." And obviously, he comes out and plays really well. So I guess we're still in kind of like a wait and see for this year. I'm putting it like 75 to 90 in that ballpark percent that he plays for the Packers this year, but I don't know if he plays much beyond this year, I guess, for the Packers.
Yeah. I mean, I want to try to argue that, but I'm in the same like mind frame with that. Like, I still feel like he's gonna play this year
Hmm.
because everything that's like happened, it's way too close now to the season
Yeah. They,
to
they don't really have time to
just
figure something else out.
yeah, exactly. To like just up and trade them. And again, whenever you're trading at someone like, an Aaron Rodgers, you want good draft capital. So
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers also isn't going to agree to go to like a crap like team. Like
Yeah.
he's not just going to turn around and go to, oh man, what's like his like the Texans right now. Like
Yeah.
he's not going to agree to go down there,
Yeah.
kind of deal. So like that's just very like interesting
Sure.
in
Yeah.
itself. So
But
I
but I do think the most glaring statement that the Packers made to try to make Aaron Rodgers the highest paid player is one, they obviously do want to do as much as they pretty much can to keep him, but two, that they really messed up with that Jordan Love pick in the first round
yeah
because clearly it's not working out for them. So
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you can't hit magic in a bottle every single time. You can't just go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to another like
Yeah. Well,
extremely like
I
good
think
like
I
player
think their
quarterback.
hope, I think their hope when they drafted Jordan Love was, oh, Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre for a couple of years and became Aaron Rodgers. So if someone sits behind Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years, they could become, the next Aaron Rodgers or the next Favre, or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that was kind of their plan, but for one, you still have to hit on a player of that, talent level. For two, you have to have a quarterback Aaron Rodgers would have to be kind of okay with it. And the fact that they didn't, tell him that they were going to be moving up to take a quarterback or anything like that, and he was begging for like more receivers and stuff, that's not going to help your team, or not going to help Aaron Rodgers feel better about the role that he'd be
yeah.
playing, bringing in a new quarterback. So um, I think they definitely screwed that screwed that situation up pretty bad. So
Yes, they did. Especially too, like when you watch like well now with like Brady's like started the quarterback trend of just like, hey, this is what I want. Go get me this.
yeah,
They got what Brady asked for, and he brought in the hardware.
yeah,
So, you know, same thing, Russell Wilson. He's complaining about offensive line. He's complaining about the way the offense is run. What did Seattle go
yeah,
out and do? They got some offensive line. They went to go get help. Aaron
yep,
Rodgers is complaining about receivers. What do the Packers do? Oh, let's trade up for a quarterback.
yeah.
Definitely need another one of those.
Yeah, I mean Tom Brady, I mean it's nowhere near the level that LeBron's doing it, but that's as close as LeBron um, you know is to the NFL or is to the NBA as, Tom Brady
Yeah.
is to the NFL of like, oh, I just want
Bringing
this
Gronk
guy,
back and this
yeah. And
guy.
they just kind of go out and find a way to acquire him. Obviously, LeBron, has where he's pulled multiple all-stars on every team he's been on. And it's not like, Gronk was a Pro Bowl or anything like that. But I think he did say, we need to hold on to this guy. We need to go get this guy. And that's as close to, a LeBron type situation as that we have in the NFL. Um, but they clearly weren't ready to do that with Aaron Rodgers, which is surprising since he does seem to be kind of a demanding person in general. I
Yeah.
mean, he's demanding calls, he's demanding
Yeah.
his players to step up all the time. He always seems to be
Well,
demanding something, and they don't seem to be
Favre
honoring
did
that.
Favre did a lot of that too. Favre was pretty demanding as well in Green Bay
Yeah,
towards the like back end of him being a Packer, which seems to be the same thing as Aaron Rodgers, where it's
yeah,
just like I feel like, Brett Favre threw a pretty good hissy fit when they drafted Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is doing the same thing.
yeah,
So, like, again, watching Favre throw the hissy fit and do all these things, Aaron Rodgers knows how to push their buttons because what did the Packers do? They traded Favre. They're like, fine, get out of here. We're done
yeah.
dealing with you. You're like crap. So Aaron Rodgers
Well, I think
knows.
with Favre, his contract just ended, and he's like, "Oh, I'll resign here." And they're pretty much, as far as I can remember, the circumstance, Favre was trying to re-sign with the Packers, and they were like, "No, we pretty much promised Aaron Rodgers that when your contract was up, that he
No,
would be the starter."
he was still under contract because they traded him because they wanted to control where he was going because, Favre ended up going to Minnesota at some point anyways.
Yeah,
But if he would have went to Minnesota right away, Minnesota could have like probably done a little bit better than his like 1 or 2 years for like the Jets that he got like stuck with down there
yeah,
kind of deal before going to Minnesota. But the Packers like wanted to like they didn't want to just release him because they knew he was going to be pissed and try to stick it back to him. So they're
yeah,
like, well, fine, we'll just trade you to like the AFC. Get out of here. We don't even want to like deal with you in the NFC anymore.
right. Yeah, and then he comes back for the Vikings, but obviously he had some injury issues. He was pretty old at
Yeah.
that point. And he
Yep.
couldn't quite play the same caliber, obviously. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think we both agree that the thing that they messed up most was that draft pick. So
Yeah.
I think they
Well, it's the
kind
same
of
thing
screwed
like the
that.
Bears when we got like Trubisky. Oh, let's trade up instead of letting them fall to you.
Yeah,
Like, what was the point of the trade up?
yeah,
Like, you just wasted more draft capital to go get a guy and you just shot yourself in the foot.
yeah.
Like,
I think we both agree when we've talked about it a lot that we hate to see trade ups, and it seems like the Bears do it every single year, and it's the most frustrating thing. If you really like a guy,
yeah.
let him fall and
This year
take the
was the
next.
best trade ups though. Like we got Justin Fields and we got our like lineman guy.
Yeah, Tevin
That
Jenkins.
was yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
obviously we haven't seen him on the field yet,
yeah.
but on paper, in our minds, that was definitely a great move for both trade ups. But here we are again trading up, and
Yeah.
it is kind of frustrating. But
Yes.
anyway, talking about draft,
Ooh. Good
tomorrow.
transition.
Thanks. Tomorrow, the NHL expansion draft will happen for the Seattle Kraken. So that'll be very interesting. So how it works for people that don't know how it works is the Kraken get to select one player from each team, or they must select one player from each team, and they have to fill a roster of 14 forwards, 9 defensemen, and 3 goaltenders. While the clubs that are already existing have 2 options. They can protect 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and a goaltender, or they can protect 8 of any skater and a goaltender. So if you're trying to protect more defensemen, you kind of lose some extra skaters. So that leaves a lot of players kind of vulnerable, especially kind of role players or maybe some penalty killers and stuff like that. And obviously that's how Vegas kind of were strategic with the players that they took and kind of rose up pretty quickly. So we'll see if the Kraken can do something like that. There's a lot of big names out there that are actually available this year. Some of them are kind of aging players. Some of them are players that are having contract issues or kind of demanded trades type of thing. But uh, obviously, with having no players on the roster, the Kraken kind of have any cap room to work with. So some of the big names that kind of stick out to me are Matt Duchene, Ryan Getzlap, Max Domi, still probably can still play. Vladimir Tarasenko is one of those guys that has not been happy on the Blues with how they've handled some of his injuries and stuff. So he's demanded a trade. So instead of just trading him right away, they just didn't protect him because he's probably going to be a guy that could get selected. PK Subban and Shea Weber, both defensemen. Those are also 2 kind of big name players that I believe has had some kind of contract issues or have demanded trades in the past. Um, and then going over to the goaltender area, you got guys like Ben Bishop, Ryan Miller, Jonathan Quick, Carey Price, Antti Ranta, and Tuukka Rask. Um, all very serviceable goaltenders. And in fact, if you were going to, going back a couple of years, if you were going to put Tuukka Rask, Carey Price, and Jonathan Quick on a list, they probably would have been the 3 top goaltenders in the league at one point in their careers. So, and then Ryan Miller and Ben Bishop were serviceable starting goaltenders in Stanley Cup playoffs. So they definitely have some good talent to choose from. Were you surprised to see any of these guys not get kind of protected?
To be perfectly honest, I really don't know any of these guys besides some of the uh goalkeepers. But I am surprised with the Lightning forwards that you didn't bring them up as being like a good or like a good fit for the Kraken with them having all that like playoff experience and
Sure. Yeah.
all
No,
that kind
it's
of stuff. Like that could be really good. I feel that could be a good start for like,
right. Yeah.
leadership role, that experience. It's going to be a young team. throwing guys in there that know like what it takes to kind of win and stuff. That kind of mentality, that kind of stuff, it's very easy, can be very contagious, especially when it comes to like basketball, hockey, when
Hmm.
the roster size is so much smaller.
Sure.
It's a lot easier to kind of like, pick other guys and like players up and things like that.
Right. But yeah, I think the
So
biggest name for most people on the list was Carey Price because of how well he still played this year, obviously. Um, but I think it has a lot to do with his age and the amount of money he's
yeah.
making. So guys like that are aging are kind of hard to hold on to. The Blackhawks have obviously struggled with that in the past with our goaltending situation of holding on to guys like Corey Crawford and stuff that maybe might have brought you to a couple cups or won some cups, and then
So
you have to pay them a lot of money, and then the age and goaltenders kind of hit a fall off point at some point. So uh,
so since you did bring up Price in like his contract situation, so in the article that I have up for the best players available for the Kraken to take here,
mhm,
it does say that Seattle needs to have a collective cap hit of at least $48.9 million, but taking on Price will hurt the team's long-term cap situation.
yeah.
So, with a brand new team kind of being formed here, taking on Price could actually like hurt the team already in the long run
Well, it
with
definitely
just starting
depends.
out. So,
I think why they're saying it hurts him in the long run is because he's set to make a lot of money over the next, however long it is. And so I think if you pick up a guy like that and he's able to still be Carey Price and be that lockdown goaltender, then I don't think that hurts you. But if
yeah,
he starts aging and really kind of falling apart, and then you have a guy on your roster that's an average goaltender making that much money, I think that's what everyone's believing is going to happen, and that's why they're like, oh, it could hurt them long term. But I think that's still to be seen. Obviously, he played phenomenal. Uh, in the playoffs this year. So I think he might still have a little bit more left in the tank than people are thinking. So I guess we'll see. Um, I don't think it's a bad move, but obviously there's a lot of goaltenders there that at one point in time, like I said, might have been some of the best goaltenders in the league, and a lot of them are now aging or whatever. But um, still have that experience of being great. So they have a lot of options for sure.
yeah. Um, I mean, the thing is, I will say with like the money situation, it says that Price is average salary per year would be 10.5 million
Yeah.
over the next 5 seasons. And then with that though, too, when you have like a new team and stuff, like the owner, GMs, all that, they're all going to be probably relatively like new. I
Hmm.
don't know their actual situation, but normally you're not getting like top end like GM or like whatever in those expansion roles. So normally you're getting a lot of like kind of rookie kind of people all around where it's just like, do you really want to put these guys in a financial bind right
Sure.
in the beginning where it's like, okay, we got this guy for 2 years, but technically we have him for 5. Can we restructure? Can we trade him in 2 years? Like, you're going to have to do something to
Yeah.
like, you know,
Well, I think it'd be, looking at it, it's a little different, but like a guy like Cleo Mack, if he, he's making a ton of money, and if he was available, would you look at it and go, oh, well, if he doesn't perform, we'd lose a bunch of money? Or would you look at it going, we can get a guy like Khalil Mack, on
mm,
our team? You know what I mean? And obviously it's a little different. And Carey Price is older than Khalil Mack would be relatively. But yeah, I mean, it's a player that could potentially be great for you for the next 5 years. But I just think that people are counting on his age to get to him, and and 2-3 years from now, you're still paying him 10 million to be maybe even like a backup goaltender and stuff like that. But I think it's kind of a high risk, high reward type of situation where it could really backfire on them or it could work out really great. And I guess we're going to get to really see how these owners and this GM is, um, pretty early to see if they're more risk takers or if they would go with more of a safer option or a younger option. So I
Yeah.
guess we're going to see that pretty quickly. But in general, do you like to see, these expansion teams? I always think it's interesting how they kind of come in and have to kind of restructure the league a little bit, by introducing another team. Obviously, not too long ago, the NHL expanded with, Las Vegas Golden Knights. I think that was in 2017. So are you interested? Is it something you like seeing or not like seeing?
I mean, I definitely like seeing it for like any league
Yeah.
because that just shows one that the league's making enough money, they're popular enough to kind of put another team like
Hmm.
out there because you can't just like throw a team in and just be like, "Oh, okay, well, we have another team. I hope people like go and like go
Yeah.
to these games. Like these
Yeah.
are like almost like $1 billion like industries. They
Right.
are going to do their research before they do an expansion team. I like it. I like the restructure of like the conferences, the leagues, whatever they're
Hmm.
in. And I also like the idea of being able just to kind of like, oh, this team's coming in. Yeah, we're gonna have them just steal players from everyone else.
Right. I think
Like,
that's interesting.
give it up.
It kind of reminds me of, like playing a board game, of like, protect your resources or whatever, or someone's going to come in and steal them. But yeah, I like it for a lot of reasons. One, it kind of, causes some change up a little bit. They have to restructure the conferences or restructure the divisions or whatnot. Two, I like it because it gives, maybe some older players or some younger players that aren't getting as much, attention on their current teams a chance to, go somewhere new and really stand out because a player that is, on a third or fourth line might be kind of thrust up to a first or second line and gives them that opportunity to really kind of show more
What they can
than
do.
what they've been doing. So I think that's really interesting as well. And then, I always like, when they're building these brand new stadiums and stuff, the kind of cool, they always try to do something new or whatnot. So I think
State of
that's
the art.
interesting. Yeah. So I like it for a lot of reasons. So
Yeah,
um, we'll definitely see. And, a lot of times where you're expecting when a team comes in like that, you're expecting them to kind of suck for several years, but kind of Vegas kind of proved everyone wrong in that aspect.
yeah,
They kind of rose to power very quickly and pretty much in their entire, lifetime, I guess, as a team. They've not been a bad team since year one. I think they made the playoffs in year one, and I don't think they've missed it in their entire existence, which is
that's pretty
extremely
impressive.
impressive. I mean, I'm looking at the list of some other sports. Um, of the last expansion teams in the other sports that we talk about. The NBA, it was the Charlotte Bobcats in 2004, and then the NFL, it was the Houston Texans in 2002. Um, Both of those teams struggled pretty hard out the gate,
Very early.
and both of those teams have really never been completely relevant. I mean, Houston Texans still haven't even been to or won a Super Bowl. I'm not sure if the Charlotte Bobcats have ever even been to the finals either. Obviously, they don't exist anymore.
Definitely
They're
not.
now the Hornets or whatever. But neither one of those teams, since starting 15 plus years ago, have ever been good. So I don't
No,
know if that's
Houston had
just
a couple like seasons where
okay. Sure,
they
yeah.
played well. They made the playoffs. They've
But not
built
well enough
a
to be in a Super Bowl, I guess
team.
I'll say.
Yeah, okay.
Or not even
But
well enough where people would say they belonged in the
yeah,
Super Bowl. You know what I mean? While a lot of, obviously you were picking Vegas to win the cup this year and stuff like that. And at one point I was saying that was a very, real possibility. So I don't know if it's, just the way that the NHL works, or if that team was just structured really well. But they're kind of proving everyone wrong that like your first year as an expansion team that you have to suck. So I
Yeah.
think it'd be interesting to see expansion teams pop up in other sports.
Well, I also want to see though too, or not see. I also want to state that each league does their expansion stuff different. Like Adam
Yeah.
explained how the NHL does theirs. The NFL does not help their expansion teams at all. They are
Yeah.
like straight up like you're just getting garbage, or teams are like salary dumping
Yeah.
onto like this new team. So the NFL, when they do their supplemental like draft, the the rules are here is teams had to submit 5 players that the Texans could choose from. So that means teams aren't even like, no, you can't touch like these specific players. Now we're gonna give you 5 of like
Yeah.
our shittiest players, or we might throw in a guy who's aging. We totally effed up his like salary cap, so like, oh, we'll throw that guy in there too, because now it'll help my team kind of do whatever, and it might
Sure.
give your team like, he still plays like well enough to maybe help you do something.
Yeah.
But that's like pretty garbage, letting the other teams be like, here are the 5 guys you could pick from.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, there's obviously a lot more people on an NFL roster than would be on an NHL roster.
Yes.
But at the same time, 5 is pretty selective. And I would hate to, I mean, it probably felt pretty shitty to be selected as one of the 5. You're on a 55-man roster in the NFL, and they go, yeah, these 50 people we're keeping, but you can have any of these 5
Yeah.
idiots. Like, we don't give a shit about them at all. Yeah, and that had to have been hard
Yeah.
for Houston to, take essentially what could be the 5 worst players from each team and try to build a
Yeah.
team out of.
Well, they also don't have to like. That's the other thing too. They don't have to select like the 5 players from
Mhm.
like each team. Each team selects 5 players,
Yeah.
and then Houston kind of like fills their roster up.
Yeah.
Like in the article I was reading, I think it was the Bears and somebody else, some other team. They took 3 players from each of them. Then it seemed like they just kind of plucked 1 or 2 players from like every other team.
Yeah.
But to your point of if you're selected as that one of those 5 guys, not only are you selected and being like, hey, like we really don't need you, and then the expansion team doesn't even select you. Now you're in an even shittier situation.
Yeah.
Now you're just
Now you have to
back.
go
It's just
back to
like
the other team as like knowing that you're unwanted.
wanted.
And
Yeah.
that's like when you go to trade a player and the trade falls through and it's like, oh, well, they clearly don't even want me here, or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting. I would love to see some sort of expansion team, and again in the NFL, but I kind of doubt that's like
Yeah.
ever going to happen. Obviously, you see some teams move. The Rams went back out
See, but
west, and
I could see
Vegas
like,
sprouted a team or whatever. But
I mean, I could see St. Louis having a team again. Apparently, don't know a whole lot about this. Saw a headline that St. Louis is like suing the NFL about how the Rams left St. Louis
I don't know
and
how they
stuff.
can.
So like,
I
I
don't know how
have,
that lawsuit works,
yeah,
but
neither do
yeah,
I. It was
I don't know.
really
I
just like
think
weird.
I think how the NFL is right now of having those 4 divisions in each conference, and every 4, like each division has 4 teams to make a total of 32 teams. I just don't see them like fucking with that. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah, that
math works out
structure.
so easily for them. I would almost feel like they would have to have 8 new like put a whole new team in each division, or go down to 3 divisions, or open a 5th division. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I feel like they would have to really restructure, and I don't really see the NFL doing that. So
yeah. You would
I
also
don't
have
really
to
see it
add
in the
more than
NFL.
one. You would also have to add more than one team. You can't just add a single
Yeah,
team
that's what I'm saying.
and
You would
restructure everything.
probably want to make it even amounts or
Yeah.
something,
So you have to add like
Um,
2 to 4 more like teams to like kind of work through that or whatever.
yeah,
So
I'd have
that
to
is a
think about how that would
pretty
work.
salad point.
But
But
yeah, that'll be interesting. Like if they made less divisions and then had like the two best teams from each division like go to the playoffs or something like that,
yeah,
instead of having four divisions per conference, if they went down to three and increased by two teams, I don't know, something like
yeah,
that. But I don't see it happening, but I would love to see it. I'd love to see them have to restructure. I'd love to see a new team pop up. I'd love to see how they handle the expansion draft in other sports and see kind of those teams. I always tend to root for kind of an underdog team. So it'd be kind of fun, obviously, as long as they're not in the same conference or division or whatever as the
as the
Bears, or as long
Bears.
as the Bears not playing them or whatever. But it'd be kind of fun to root for that underdog team all year of being like, oh, I'd love to see this team that just started this year kind of,
Yeah.
go all the way or at least do well. I think
Well,
that'd be interesting.
speaking of expanding the NFL, there's rumors of the Bears going to Arlington. With that being said, if the Bears go to Arlington, would the NFL make another team in the city of Chicago too and have technically two teams in Illinois now just to kind of like,
That
you
would
know,
be that'd be
really,
absolutely crazy.
that would be like nuts. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts and feelings about the Bears potentially moving or buying the Arlington racetrack here?
It's like a totally torn feeling for me. I think it would be, I think it'd be crazy to I love Soldier Field. I grew not I grew up near it. I loved seeing it. I loved passing it by and walking around it, going there late at night when I'm not supposed to. Going to games there, all kinds of stuff. Um, so it'd be crazy to see them go to a new like place. And I think it would
Yeah,
be hurtful for the city of Chicago, but I see a lot of pros in it. I see they could build a state of the art stadium. Obviously, Soldier Field has had its issues with seating, and they tried to modernize it a couple of years ago, and a lot of people didn't like kind of the additions that they put on, stuff like that. But they could really like make a kick-ass stadium. Like some of the ones that we've seen come up, obviously with Vegas's new stadium and the one coming in LA and stuff. Those stadiums look badass, and it'd be cool to have that in Chicago and maybe have one that has a dome or something like that. So weather isn't as much of a factor, even though sometimes that seems to benefit us.
oh,
But there's teams that pretty much like Minnesota put in a dome essentially just so they can host a Super Bowl. It'd be really cool to see the Super Bowl come to Chicago, even though that kind of sucks for the players going somewhere cold when they would rather be probably traveling
yeah.
somewhere warm. But it would be cool if we could build somewhere and have a Super Bowl come to Chicago. And then in general, with just with the team owning a stadium would be really nice because they can make their own rules more. Like obviously this year with COVID, the city didn't allow fans at all. But if it was up to the team, they would have had some fans, at least to some capacity. And then the parking situation as well. I think with the city owning the parking lots, they're kind of bound by a certain amount of rules and regulations and stuff that it would be nice to see kind of what the team can do for that. Because we try to tailgate throughout the game, but the city will kick you out of the lot, like as soon as the game starts, which I think if they
Yeah.
moved out to the suburbs, I don't think they'll care as much. And I think they would probably be able to put in kind of a bigger parking lot, and that could improve tailgating. Plus it's closer to me, so I could I could I could get there a little easier, buy last minute tickets, stuff like that. Obviously, that won't matter for most people in the city or whatever. But yeah, it definitely has its pros and cons. The nice thing about the Arlington racetrack is it's still right off the metro system, so people that live in the city, shouldn't be able like it shouldn't be that hard to get
Booze
to.
ride down,
Right,
baby.
right. You can game right on the train. Wait, not legally, so never mind that statement. Um, Drink when you get there, I guess. Um,
Hmm,
so
interesting. Tell all the people that take the metro all the time that
yeah,
rule,
right,
because
right.
apparently no one enforces that. So thank you, Metro.
Yeah, so but yeah, I definitely see its pros and cons. What do you think about it?
My thing is, to be perfectly honest, I am a fan of Soldier Field. I understand the history behind it. But at the end of the day, like, you got to put more fans in that stadium. Soldier Field only holds 61,500 people, which, don't get me wrong, I believe they've like pushed that up a little bit because I know they do like the standing rooms and things like
Yeah.
that. But the actual seats in Soldier Field are 61,500. So, like, you got to up those numbers a little bit. Okay. And again, bringing a Super Bowl to, yes, it would be in Arlington, but you're going to get people that are just going to come to the city of Chicago anyways and just take that metro to Arlington. So, like, the city's still going to reap the benefits of that stadium, like, on its own. And I am so tired of the Bears not being able to put in better grass, better
Yeah.
turf, and things like that because the field is owned by the park
Yeah.
district. I literally looked that up to make sure I wasn't false on that.
No,
And
I
that's
knew that.
why our fields are garbage.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I live in the city. They do not do a very good job of maintaining their own parks and fields, let alone like an NFL stadium type field. And to hear like, the mayor of Chicago really like get in on like the NFL and the Bears are trying to move or do anything, it's like, I'm sorry, tell your workers to do a better job or allow them to like fix the field so
Yeah.
people don't get hurt. Like, there are tons of players
And I
that get
believe
hurt and complain about this year after year after year, and the city of Chicago is like, I don't care.
yeah, and I believe the Bears have attempted to buy the field from the city of Chicago multiple times, and obviously they have no reason to sell it.
Yeah,
So I think
you're gonna have a reason to sell it when the Bears up and move because what you gonna do with that now?
at this point in my mind, I think I like the moving out of the city, slightly has more pros in my mind than cons. And I would kind of like to see it happen. And yeah, build a bigger stadium, more capacity, updates, state of the art stuff. It'd be really cool to see. Um, and yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Um, yeah, the Soldier Field down at 61, officially capacity of 61,500, and that
Yeah,
makes them the lowest capacity in the NFL right now. The next lowest is Phoenix, University of Phoenix Stadium at 63.5. And then, MetLife Stadium, it being the largest where the Giants and the Jets play, 82.5. So, 20,000 more people could sit there, and that eventually will drive costs down a little bit. I mean, obviously Chicago's still a big market team, and building a new stadium, they're going to have to recoup that cost. So the tickets aren't going to be cheap, but eventually you would, with that many more people, you could probably drive costs down a little bit more, for some of those cheaper seats.
yeah.
I mean, even if the bid goes through, they decide to move,
It's not
it
gonna
probably
happen for
wouldn't
like
be
three,
yet.
4 years
I was
or
gonna say
more.
2024 at like the very earliest, but
No, I would think
it'd be
2025, 2026
yeah, could be. I mean,
kind of thing. Like,
how
that
long did
stuff's
it
gonna
take them
take
to build
time.
the stadium in LA? Probably 5-ish years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I would kind of like to see it though, pretty
Yeah.
much at this point,
I
but it
mean,
would it would probably take a while.
man.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think when the Rams, before they built that new stadium, I think when the Rams and the Chargers were playing at the Coliseum, I think that stadium seats like 100,000 people, and they could
Yeah.
barely even fill like half of that thing out there when the Rams first moved out there.
Yeah.
So
I know.
so
I
I
mean,
think
I'm more pumped for like a new stadium. I'm not gonna lie. If they buy Arlington, like, you could put a casino in that stadium. There's already
yeah,
talks about like you could put a couple hotels on the lot and like close to the stadium as well.
yeah,
So now
that'd
you're
be
gonna get
cool.
people like, you know, traveling from out of town or even from Chicago that don't want to go home the same day or
Yeah,
that night they could literally just stay in the hotel where again probably gonna have gambling now. Pritzker just like signed that into like
yeah.
gambling's okay now in
I just
Chicago
think
and stuff.
I just think
Like,
they could do a lot with it. They have a lot of
yeah,
options and whatnot.
but
So uh,
um
Yeah, I mean, and I wouldn't mind if they keep it grass, to be honest. I kind of like the natural grass. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to them
Yeah.
going turf. But yeah, as long as they maintain it better, we would maybe even see like, less injuries on the team if this if the field conditions were better.
Yeah. I mean, that's so true. The other big thing, though, too, with that stadium, not only does the NFL or the Bears have to put a bid in for that land, before they put that bid in, they have to get approval from Arlington and things like that. And then when it comes to building the stadium, the owners in the NFL, they don't front all the money. So that means
Mhm.
Arlington's going to have to help front that money to
Yeah.
help build that stadium as well. So that's a
Which
whole
I'm
nother
sure I'm sure they would,
issue in
that would bring
itself, like
that would bring a ton of,
revenue to that.
revenue. Yeah. So I'm sure that they would. And if I've heard right, I've read the report saying that the Bears already got approval from the NFL and have submitted an official bid already.
Yeah. Well, I
So,
know they did, and so did other super like rich people or whatever. But yeah, they're waiting to hear back from whoever owns that plot and the village of Arlington because they are the ones because it's so big. Whoever's buying it, they're doing something there,
yeah.
kind of thing. So like Arlington has to also like approve and okay with whoever's buying it. What's your plan for it? What are you going to do with it? And they also have to like approve of that as well, where it's like, I could kind of see the Bears getting outbidded by like a place that's going to put in like some hotels and like a casino, kind of chilling there as well. Big parking lot, got a casino right in Arlington. That's going to bring in revenue. That would
Yeah.
probably be cheaper to build than like a giant like stadium
Yeah.
and
But probably
stuff
long
too.
term
So
wouldn't bring as much revenue, but
yes,
who knows what they're, going for. So
yeah,
I think it'll be interesting either way. I think it's been talked about for a while, the Bears moving out of Soldier Field. Um and I think this is the first like major step, even putting a bid at somewhere. I think this is the first major step they've really taken.
yeah.
Um so we'll
Well,
see.
the city wants to keep them there. You better do something because the Bears organization just if you're trying to like play it out or whatever it is for either side, it's like that's a
They made a
huge
move.
that yeah, that's a huge gamble. Like
Yeah.
the city of Chicago, you better rebuttal if you want to keep that like there.
I do like how Lightwood released that statement being
Lightfoot,
like Lightfoot, whatever,
Lightfoot
released that statement being like, oh, I think they should focus more on
beating the
winning games,
Packers.
yeah, than they should on, moving
Yeah,
stadiums or whatever. It's like, yeah, but some
yeah,
of the people in those, financial rules don't know anything about football. Don't do any planning for the teams. Like their only job is to make money and do stuff like that.
yeah,
And so no, their job is not to focus on beating the Packers. Their job is to make,
yeah.
decisions for the team.
Well,
And another thing that we didn't mention that I forgot about is all like not only will this possibly in the long term drive ticket prices down, also concession stand prices would probably go down because a portion of the concession stand profit also goes to the city of Chicago right now because they own the stadium. So if the Bears own the stadium, they could drive concession prices down because they would be profiting 100% from the concessions instead of having to pay that 10% or whatever it is towards the city of Chicago.
yeah.
So that might be also nice for
I
fans.
mean, that's also something too. If we're talking about like money and stuff like that, that's probably something like Arlington would probably do. Like, oh, if you're building this, you would want your like citizens, your town to not only like, benefit from that. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, the concession, we want people that are doing concessions hired from Arlington slash,
Sure.
a certain percentage where because the city owns it, it's like, yeah, they're going to take a large chunk where Arlington, they're not the city of Chicago, instead of like, if it's
Hmm.
10%, maybe they're like, yeah, we want like 4% or 5%, which again,
Sure.
still will drive concession prices down
Yeah.
as well. Cause just like you're saying, like both places are trying to make like money off of each other, which how you're saying, it does drive up the price of everything because each organization's trying to like, reap the benefits of everything.
Right. But yeah,
So
I guess it'll be, one of those time will tell type of situations, and we'll keep following it. So, yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty much all I had for today.
Yeah, me too. So, all 3, 4 fans that continue to listen, please continue. Thank you, family members and friends,
Thank you.
for continuously to listen. If there are actually any random people that really don't know us that continuously listen, please throw in a comment or something. We will
Yeah.
definitely get back to you as quickly as possible
Ask
because
questions.
we talk to our family enough to where
Yep.
I'm not going to really respond to them over YouTube here. So
Yeah. They
yeah,
hear us talk about sports
that's,
enough as it
that's,
is.
that is very true. Very true. So thank you, people that watch. Until
Yeah.
next time.
Yep. Later.